everyone. Thank you for joining me for this webinar about sleep. I'm Andrea Bartels. I'm a registered nutritional therapist and the lead educator for Pure Lab Vitamins. In this webinar, some of the questions I'm going to answer include: how does sleep quality and duration affect health? How does stress affect sleep? What foods and habits can affect sleep? And what natural health products can support it? If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the Q&A box available at the Zoom screen's menu bar. After the presentation, I'll answer your questions about the material. Don't worry, there won't be a test. At some point, we've all experienced what it's like to wake up feeling refreshed after a good night's sleep. We're more alert, focused, and we have a good attitude and outlook on things. But how do you feel after a night or two of poor sleep? Chances are you lack focus and motivation. You have a lot less energy. You feel spacey, and you're easily irritated. Why is this? Well, as you may have noticed, the body doesn't work so well without adequate rest. What do we know about sleep and its relationship to health? Well, during sleep, we produce serotonin and melatonin, two vital neurotransmitters that regulate mood and more. Sleep is also vital to the health of the immune system, as well as the cerebrospinal fluid, the fluid that the brain and the spinal cord are bathed in at all times. Quality sleep helps keep this bathwater clear of toxic proteins that impair cognitive function. See, CSF is supposed to be clear and colorless, but during the day it picks up impurities that need to be cleared. It's during sleep that this fluid gets cleaned. Inadequate sleep is associated with quite a few health problems. In fact, the National Institutes of Health have linked several diseases with insomnia. Diabetes type 2. If you saw my diabetes webinar, you may remember that sleep deficiency makes blood sugar more difficult to manage. Depression is another one. Obesity is a biggie. So is heart disease. But just about any chronic health condition can be associated with insomnia. Either the condition increases sleeping difficulties due to pain or other problems, or the sleeping difficulties can increase the risk or severity of these conditions. How much sleep do we need? Sleep experts tell us adults that we should be aiming for 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. But then why do so many of us who are in bed for 8 hours still wake up feeling tired? We lie there for hours after turning out the lights, tossing and turning, sleepless. If that's you, you're far from alone. 1 in 2 Canadian adults report trouble falling asleep or staying asleep, while 1 in 5 adults say they do not wake up feeling refreshed. Others have trouble staying asleep. They wake up 1 or more times each night and have trouble falling back to sleep again. All of this means reduced sleep time, which is no wonder why 1 in 3 adults have difficulty staying awake during waking hours. And that leads to more problems, as you may have noticed. There are more causes of poor sleep than I can possibly mention right now, but I'd like to highlight the biggies. We can't deny the impact of stress on our sleep quality. Stress raises our levels of stimulating neurotransmitters, adrenaline or epinephrine, and cortisol, which make it hard to settle down. Instead, they make us feel alert or wired. Stress can reduce deep sleep duration and cause disruptions in REM sleep. Then there's physical pain or discomfort, like restless legs syndrome. Feeling uncomfortable can reduce sleep duration and quality. Hormonal changes, such as in perimenopause or menopause, is a big one for females. Nighttime hypoglycemia or low blood sugar, that wakes us up to eat. You'll know this is the culprit if eating at night makes you sleepy again. Lifestyle habits like drinking coffee, partying, playing late night hockey, or even playing video games can require a long wind down period before we can sleep. And then there's what's called poor sleep hygiene. That's falling asleep on the couch with the lights on, taking your phone to bed with you, and so on. More on this later. No matter what the primary circumstances are, realizing that all these things affect not just your ability to sleep, but the details of your sleep cycle. This is a cycle that occurs 3 to 5 times per sleep session. Here's a primer on the various stages of sleep in the cycle. In stage 1, you've reached a drowsy, superficial sleep. your heart rate decreases and your muscles relax. You wake up easily from this stage if you hear a noise, for instance. During stage 2, you're in light sleep. Your heart rate decreases even more, and your body temperature does too. You'll spend about 40 to 60% of your time sleeping in this stage, and when you wake up from light sleep, you'll feel more alert than if you were in deep sleep. Stage 3 is deep sleep. During this time, there's an increased blood flow to the muscles, but a decreased circulation to the brain. Chances are, if your alarm goes off while you're in deep sleep, it will take a lot longer for you to wake up than if you were in the other stages of sleep. Deep sleep is highly regenerative, but if you're not spending enough time in this phase, ideally between 14 and 20% of your night, then it could have a negative impact on your daytime well-being. One recent study identified that even a small decrease in the total amount of time spent in deep sleep could increase one's risk of Alzheimer's disease. They postulated that this deep sleep deficiency stops the removal of amyloid proteins that are found in the brains of people with Alzheimer's. But the sleep cycle isn't complete without REM sleep. Although we can dream during any phase in the sleep cycle, it's during REM that we can have the most intense dreams. REM stands for rapid eye movement because our eyes do exactly that under their lids, move rapidly. Breathing can become faster, more irregular, and shallow. Our peripheral muscles relax and we don't move, but heart rate and blood pressure both increase. We're easily awakened during REM sleep too. Maybe you don't care if you dream or not. Well, hear this. It turns out that REM sleep stimulates the learning centers of the brain. It even boosts mood. If you're a young adult, you can expect to spend 20 to 25% of your total sleep time in REM, or slightly less if you're older than that. But here's the thing. A lot of antidepressant medications and pain drugs inhibit REM sleep. So can the use of caffeine, alcohol, and cannabis. That's why lifestyle matters to sleep. If you have a Fitbit or other fitness tracker that measures your heart rate, you may have taken a look at your sleep cycle variability from night to night. It can be fun and useful to look for patterns and see how your daily activities affect your sleep. Females should note that normal hormonal shifts as part of your monthly menstrual cycle will affect your sleep cycle too. Which nutrition and lifestyle factors affect sleep? Certain foods and habits can be overstimulating to the brain and body. Sugar. Glucose is brain fuel. Without it, our physical and mental energy lags. But too much, and it acts as a stimulant to the nervous system. We've all seen kids bounce around after consuming sweet treats, right? The effect may not be as obvious in adults, but the mental effects can include lack of focus, anxiety, or busy brain. Look at your cereals, yogurts, granola bars, and food condiments like barbecue sauce, and you may be surprised how much sugar is in these products. Use herbs and spices and a dash of salt to flavor your foods instead, especially at supper time. Caffeine is a stimulant. While it's been shown to improve focus when consumed by regular consumers in moderate amounts, excess can have the opposite effect. Do an inventory on your caffeine consumption. Do you drink coffee, tea, energy drinks, cocoa? If so, how much per day? Reducing your intake, particularly in the latter half of your day, can ensure that the caffeine is cleared from your system in time for a restful sleep. How about food additives? Consumption of chemicals like MSG, sodium benzoate, BHT and BHA, and artificial colors like tartrazine have been associated with hyperactivity, particularly in children. Check food labels for these chemicals and ditch them from your cabinets. Replace them with simple whole foods. What are those? Well, they're foods that don't have ingredient lists because nothing has been added. I'm talking about fruits, vegetables, nuts, air-popped corn, not the microwavable kind, as examples. Those are no-brainers, right? Well, there are still a few other foods that can overstimulate the mind in a different way. Fermented or aged foods like pickles, luncheon meats, sauerkraut, and wine all contain an amino acid called tyramine. It's produced naturally during fermentation and aging processes. Some people find eating tyramine-containing foods too close to bedtime prevents them from falling asleep quickly. Even overripe bananas and avocados contain higher amounts of tyramine, so reserve these for breakfast or lunch instead of your evening snack. Speaking of wine, some of you may have used alcohol to help you wind down in the evening. Alcohol is a central nervous system depressant, and it can wreak havoc on the sleep cycle. That's why it seems to help you fall asleep, yet it can decrease sleep quality. A Finnish study published in 2018 showed that females who drank more than 1 glass of alcoholic beverage and males who consumed more than 2 glasses per day had a 40% reduction in sleep quality. This was defined as reduced REM sleep, shorter sleep duration, and more sleep disruptions. The other problem here is the fatigue that results from poor sleep can lead to other bad habits, like excessive caffeine consumption. To reduce risk of sleep disruption, it's important to avoid alcohol consumption within 4 hours of going to bed. What about nutrient deficiencies? About 80% of us are magnesium deficient. Meanwhile, iron is one of the top mineral deficiencies worldwide, especially in women and children. Interestingly, pregnant women can suffer from insomnia, restless leg syndrome, and anemia at the same time. Is it all a coincidence? Maybe not. A 2018 study examined the prevalence of iron deficiency anemia in both pregnant and non-pregnant women who had restless leg syndrome, and discovered that pregnant women with RLS were more often anemic than those without RLS. So if this describes you, it's a good idea to find out your iron status. These are just a couple of nutritional imbalances that need correction for optimal sleep. What lifestyle strategies could help you get a better night's sleep each night? A routine that lowers stimulation in the hours before bedtime sets the stage for a good night's sleep. Say goodnight to your blue light sources at least 1 hour before turning out the lights. I'm talking about your TV, your tablet, laptop, and yes, your phone. Ideally, these should be left in another room. Instead, do something relaxing, such as mindfulness-based stress reduction. There are lots of instructional videos available on how to do this. Don't let yourself fall asleep on the couch. When you start feeling sleepy, don't fight it. Take yourself to bed, where you want the room to be as dark as possible. It's also important to have a regular bedtime, because it's not really possible to catch up on sleep on the weekend or whenever. By sleeping in, you're actually promoting the likelihood that you'll stay up later because you haven't been awake long enough to get tired. If you nap, keep it short, 20 minutes or less. Otherwise, you may have difficulty falling asleep when bedtime rolls around. If your sleep is easily disrupted, say because your roommate or bedmate snores, consider wearing earplugs. Don't worry, they won't block out the sound of your alarm clock, but they will buffer surrounding sounds that tend to disturb sleep. What about exercise? Many sources show that while daytime exercise benefits sleep, evening exercise that's too strenuous can have the reverse effect because it's overstimulating. But we're all different. If you're not sleeping, the important thing is to change something you're doing, replacing it with something new. So what natural health products support sleep? Before I get into that, consider this. About 10% of elderly Canadians are using sleeping pills regularly. Keep in mind that this is the national average, but in some areas like New Brunswick, the rate of use is higher, more like 25%. But sleep medications have numerous side effects and carry additional risks for seniors. With sleeping pills, there's an increased risk of falling. In fact, one study found that 33% of the hip fractures that occur in seniors 85 years of age or older were linked to sleeping pill use. There's also the danger of falling asleep at the wheel, even the morning after they're taken. Drugs like Valium, Xanax, and Ativan inhibit REM sleep making memory problems worse since REM sleep is essential for learning and memory formation. Then there's risk of addiction and associated withdrawal effects that bring more risks. I haven't even mentioned the other side effects commonly reported: headaches, dizziness, GI upset, sexual dysfunction, hallucinations, and more. Even non-prescription sleep drugs have their problems. They may induce sleep effectively, but they tend to have a negative effect on sleep quality. Plus, individuals using them can build tolerance to these drugs, making them ineffective at recommended dosages in just a few weeks. These are just some of the reasons why safer alternatives are needed. Here are some of the natural products that are my top go-tos for sleep support. I'll start with the essential mineral magnesium. Magnesium is needed for hundreds of important chemical reactions that keep us alive and well, including those involved in nervous system activities. When it comes to sleep, magnesium appears to inhibit certain receptors that stimulate muscle, and in effect, promote muscle relaxation. Here's another fact. Without enough magnesium, the amount of melatonin in the blood is reduced, making sleep onset more challenging. Magnesium also binds to GABA receptors, telling the neurotransmitter GABA to calm down the nervous system by inhibiting dopamine and epinephrine. Magnesium supplementation has been shown to reduce levels of the stimulating stress hormone, cortisol, calming the nervous system in preparation for sleep. Several studies have also shown that higher blood magnesium levels are correlated with better sleep and a lower incidence of restless leg syndrome. Since 2002, Pure Labs magnesium glycinate has been the foundational magnesium product for better absorption and bowel tolerance. Magnesium promotes healthy nerve and muscle function, which influences sleep quality. Magnesium glycinate is a compound that nourishes the nervous system with the essential mineral magnesium attached to the amino acid L-glycine. Taking it an hour before bedtime supports sleep because of its relaxing effect on the nerves and muscles. The added benefit of the L-glycine is that it inhibits release of stimulating neurotransmitters. But not all magnesium glycinate products on the market are created equal. In fact, the Canadian government does not require companies to be transparent about the finer details of the compound. Unlike other brands, Pure Lab's label includes specific details about exactly what's inside. You'll notice that each capsule contains 165 milligrams of elemental magnesium. We keep the amount of magnesium oxide to a minimum in order to reduce potential side effects on the bowels. Our magnesium glycinate powder contains this same formulation. It's just not encapsulated. It's ideal for making nutritious blender drinks. Our newest magnesium product is our magnesium glycinate raspberry lemon powder mix, which has 200 milligrams of elemental magnesium per serving. It's naturally colored, naturally sweetened, and naturally flavored, with just 1.3 grams of organic cane sugar per dose. That's a lot less than your average glass of orange juice, which weighs in at about 20 grams of sugar per cup. Remember, Pure Labs magnesium glycinate has a lower risk of causing loose stools when compared to higher dose capsules or magnesium oxide by itself. With better absorption, less stays unabsorbed, achieving higher blood levels and reducing the chance of bowel disturbance. The full daily dose of Pure Labs magnesium glycinate is either 3 capsules or 3 scoops of magnesium glycinate powder or 2 scoops of raspberry lemon powder mix. But we recommend that these be spaced out into at least 2 doses. For example, 1 capsule could be taken earlier in the day, then 2 capsules an hour before bedtime. The vast majority of medicated individuals can usually take supplementary magnesium, but if you have any reservations, please ask your doctor or pharmacist. Another sleep supportive product is one that can be taken safely whether you're on medications or not. It's l-theanine. What is it? L-theanine is an amino acid that was first discovered in green tea. Like magnesium, l-theanine can be taken day or night because it promotes relaxation without sedation. but it helps prepare the mind for sleep by inducing what are known as alpha brain waves. Compared to the delta brain waves of deep sleep, alpha brain waves are associated with rest and relaxation. So if you're someone who has difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep because of a busy brain full of thoughts, then you may be a great candidate for l-theanine supplementation. You can choose between 3 different formats and 3 potencies of our l-theanine products. Our highest potency is Pure Lab's l-theanine 250 mg capsule. It can be taken day or night, remember, because l-theanine is non-sedating. If you have trouble falling asleep, consider using our 125 mg l-theanine chewable about 15 minutes before hitting the pillow. This is a sugar-free, monk fruit sweetened chewable used for more rapid absorption. If you're waking up during the night and can't fall back to sleep, consider taking Pure Lab's slow-release l-theanine right at bedtime. This unique formulation contains 200 mg of l-theanine per capsule. It also contains hypromellose SR, a tree fiber that allows for a more steady release of l-theanine into the bloodstream for longer lasting benefits through the night. Chances are you may still wake up in the night, but you'll fall asleep more quickly. Remember, l-theanine is not an instead of product. That is, it can be safely taken by those already using magnesium, herbal sedatives, melatonin, and even sleep medications. It's not habit forming, it's non-addictive, and doesn't create dependency. It's also caffeine free. Magnesium and l-theanine make a great pairing for those with sleeping difficulties, but sometimes extra help is needed. As a third consideration, there's melatonin. Melatonin is a hormone our bodies make, and that's released by the pineal gland in the brain under dim light or dark conditions. This prepares us for sleep by making us sleepy. But as we age, the secretion of melatonin dwindles, making it hard to fall asleep. By the time you're an adult, your production of this hormone has declined by 80%. Plus, even young adults can have reduced melatonin production thanks to high exposure to blue light via computer screens, TV, tablets, and phones. That's why taking a melatonin supplement can be really helpful to get on a healthy sleep track. So how does supplementary melatonin help? Well, it's been shown to decrease the time it takes to fall asleep and increase sleep duration. It can help jet-lagged individuals and shift workers get back on track more quickly because it helps reset the body's sleep-wake cycle when taken at the right time. Now, you may have tried melatonin and found it wasn't effective. There are a few reasons for this. One is that your sleeping issues are more complex and require a total hormone and lifestyle analysis. This is helpful for women who are new to sleeping problems, say as part of their perimenopausal experience. But there could be other reasons why the melatonin you took wasn't helpful. Perhaps you just require a higher dosage. But more likely is the fact that the product you took may not be meeting its label claim for potency. For example, back in 2017, there was a study on melatonin products sold in a pharmacy in Guelph, Ontario. What they discovered upon testing was, among 30 commercially sold products, the melatonin content varied significantly from the amount listed on the label. One brand had 465% difference in content from its label claim. It's not common knowledge that this kind of testing is not mandatory for companies to do. The hiring of an independent lab to test purity and potency of ingredients is totally optional. But Pure Lab spares no expense, making sure that each batch of each product is tested before encapsulation, then again after encapsulation. So what you're getting is an effective level of potency in each dose. Pure Lab's magnesium glycinate and melatonin combines 100 milligrams of magnesium glycinate with 3 milligrams of melatonin for added sleep support benefits. These two ingredients work synergistically to promote restful sleep, reestablish the sleep-wake cycle, improve adjustment from jet lag or shift work, and promote overall better sleep quality. For those who can't seem to fall asleep, Pure Lab's magnesium glycinate plus melatonin can be taken preventatively 1 hour before turning out the lights. If you're prone to waking up at night for long periods of time, the product can be taken again right before you turn out the lights. Or you can use our slow-release melatonin 10 milligram capsule right at bedtime for longer lasting benefits through the night. So if you've taken a regular 10 milligram melatonin before without lasting success, realize that ours is different because it's designed to trickle into the bloodstream at lower doses all night long. Let me summarize what I've been talking about here. I've explained how sleep quality impacts health and introduced the 4 sleep stages, so you understand how important they are to your well-being. I've outlined some of the biggest contributing factors to sleeping issues today. I've zeroed in on some of the nutrition and lifestyle no-nos and how to go about modifying these habits. Then I gave you a primer on Pure Lab's sleep supportive products, so you see what's unique about our formulations and how to use them effectively. I hope you've gained a better understanding of support for sleep from our perspective. I'd like to take a moment now to thank all of the sponsors of this webinar. You can find Pure Lab Vitamins products in all of these fine stores. Now I'm going to take a few moments to get ready to answer your questions. I'll be right back. Alrighty, well, while we wait for some questions to come in, hope you found that useful. Yes, don't worry, Catherine, you will get the replay. Just by signing up for the webinar, you will get the replay automatically in your email box, so don't worry about that. All right. Great, so please send in your questions. You're welcome, Catherine. Excellent. All right, so they're starting to come in now. All right, so Julie asks about what time would you take the 10 milligram slow release melatonin? Do you have to worry about drowsiness in the morning? Well, Julie, great question. It depends when you're going to want to be sleeping. So for example, if you wanted to say, hey, I want to make sure I spend most of my night sleeping, lowering my chance of waking up during the night so that I can not worry about having to fall back asleep, then you would want to take the slow release melatonin as soon as you go to bed. Okay, basically when you're turning out the light. If you had trouble falling asleep, then you would take it about, I'd say 2 hours before you plan to go to bed, only because the slow release compound means that it's going to trickle into your system. You may not feel the effects for like right away. You might feel them later on because of the slow release preparation. Okay, if you do have trouble falling asleep, then you want to take our regular melatonin with the magnesium glycinate. And no, you should not feel drowsy in the morning because, again, it's being released very steadily through the night. And if you take the proper amount of melatonin, you should never feel drowsy in the morning. Sometimes you might think you're drowsy just because, well, you waited too long to take the melatonin, or you did wake up during the night, so you didn't get as much sleep, and you're starting the sleep cycle over again. And again, you're doing this about 5 times per night, but there's a chance that you didn't have as many sleep cycles if you didn't sleep well. So again, for everybody, don't wait to take the melatonin. Don't wait until you wake up in the middle of the night. That is not the time to take the slow release melatonin or any melatonin, because it will throw off your whole circadian rhythm. Okay, take the magnesium, take the theanine. That might do the job to center your thoughts and help you fall asleep. All right. Okay, anonymous person says, how long can you stay taking these vitamins? Should you take a break? Well, when it comes to magnesium, that's an essential mineral. So there's absolutely no reason to take a break, right? You're going to benefit in many ways from magnesium because the body uses it for over 300 different processes, enzymatic reactions, protein synthesis, neurotransmitter production, things like that, okay? When it comes to l-theanine, well, because there are no side effects known, there are no contraindications. They can be taken with medications, and it's not habit forming. You can take that as long as you wish. When it comes to melatonin, though, we recommend that you really pay attention to your lifestyle and work on those elements of your lifestyle that you think need improvement. We don't want to encourage using melatonin every single night. okay? Not because it's dangerous, but we're trying to use these supplements as a remedy to support, but we're not necessarily going to fix the root cause of your sleeping problem with the supplement, okay? Unless it was a magnesium deficiency. So you can take them as long as you like, with the exception of the melatonin. We suggest using that for only a couple weeks at a time, taking breaks, working on your lifestyle. Okay. Let's see, another question. Are there any side effects for the magnesium supplement? That all depends on the dosing and whether you are taking more than your body can possibly absorb at once. So we recommend 2 capsules maximum at a time, which would give you around 350 milligrams of elemental magnesium. That should not be enough to cause loose bowels. No matter what type of magnesium you're using, whether it's magnesium oxide, magnesium citrate, magnesium glycinate, at some dosage, your body will not be able to absorb anymore. We find, though, that magnesium glycinate has a higher bowel tolerance, more is absorbed, and so less stays behind in the bowel to cause disruption, such as loose stool. All right. So side effects other than that are rare. And if you do have any, please, you can always drop me a line at andrea@purelabvitamins.com and share more information about what you might be experiencing. But you can certainly start by taking just 1 capsule before you go to bed and then ease into the 3 a day. Absolutely. And again, your body will tell you. And there are some instances where a practitioner will say, well, 3 capsules wasn't enough, meaning you're still not seeing a change in your ability to fall asleep or stay asleep, and the quality of your sleep. Let's bump up that further. So with the guidance of a health professional who knows you, you can always increase that dosage to the amount that is both beneficial and bowel tolerance is still maintained, okay? Right, and is the powder magnesium safe for children? So you won't see a children's dosage on the label. You will see an adolescent dosage, which for the government is 9 years of age and up. So any children under the age of 9, we suggest taking 1 capsule, pouring the amount from 1 capsule, that's 165 milligrams of powder, or using the powder, 1 scoop, and mixing it in about 1 liter of water. And simply whenever the child is consuming water during the day, they're going to be consuming small amounts of that magnesium. So while some children may need much more to see a benefit, it's certainly a safe dosage, and that should produce a bowel tolerance, i.e. no loose stool in the vast majority of cases, is what we find. All right, and just to note that the raspberry lemon powder mix is a 200 milligram. You may have heard me say earlier that it was a 200 elemental value of magnesium per scoop. Okay, so it is higher than the regular unflavored, unsweetened powder, just FYI, okay? All right, thanks, Angela. And how many days does it take to start feeling the benefits of l-theanine? Well, Lillian, this is a great question, because the beauty of l-theanine is that it works essentially as soon as it's absorbed. So there's no need to wait. There's no need to say, okay, I'm going to take the bottle, and maybe by the end of then when I'm finished the bottle, then I will notice a change. That's not how it works. It actually works immediately. As soon as it's absorbed, it starts to influence and buffer the neurotransmitters, increase the alpha brain waves, which I said were related to a sense of relaxation without sedation. And that's why we love it. All right. So you should notice a change the same day that you use it. If you didn't, you may need more. You may need to take it at a different time of day to maintain the levels, or take the slow release l-theanine for a longer lasting effect. All right, Anonymous asks, how does one decide between the magnesium and the l-theanine? Okay, well, if you're not already using magnesium, I suggest it become one of your foundation nutritional supplements, because it's going to help you in so many different ways. right? It influences the nervous system, neuromuscular function. So if you get leg cramps, if you get eye twitches, if you get headaches frequently, if you have suffer from some nervousness, some busy brain, right? I mean, all those things may benefit and more is because the magnesium is actually an essential nutrient is being used by the body. The l-theanine, I call it the cherry on top. So once you have the foundational nutrient, like magnesium as one of the basics, you can stack on top the l-theanine for additional benefit. Again, it works a little bit differently than the magnesium by creating those alpha brain waves, okay? And it works differently, and it's a non-essential. That's why I call it the cherry on top. It's a nice to have non-essential that is harmless and safe to take along with the magnesium. Great combination. So I encourage you to use both. All right. Okay, Judy asks, restless legs and muscle spasm problems, already taking magnesium glycinate 2 capsules at bedtime. Any other supplements? Yes, so Judy, first of all, I'd suggest if your bowel will tolerate it, taking another 2 capsules earlier in the day. Okay, definitely to be looking at that. Also, check your iron status. Your ferritin levels will tell you about your iron status. It's a blood test. And if those are not optimal, then there's a chance that increasing your iron intake could actually improve the symptoms of restless leg syndrome. I believe folic acid may be another nutrient, and they found this out through the pregnant women studies that I referred to earlier. So even if you're not pregnant, if you have RLS, if you suffer from RLS regularly, chronically, then making sure your nutrition is maintained and that you augment the nutrients that may be vulnerable to deficiency, like the magnesium, and in some cases iron. There are a lot of our consumers who tell us that they're using PPIs for their GERD, drugs that inhibit stomach acid secretion, and that is going to inhibit iron absorption, and it can also make it difficult to absorb the acid dependent minerals like calcium and magnesium and zinc as well. So things to consider. I don't know your age, Judy, but things to think about that may influence your ability to absorb those nutrients. So you can always speak to your doctor if you are using a drug like that and find out if there are other things you can do to maximize absorption. Other supplements to support that, I think I went over that. Great. Okay. Are there any supplements I shouldn't take at the same time as magnesium? Not that I can think of, unless you're a purist. I don't mean a Pure Lab Vitamins fan. I mean a person who believes that calcium should be taken away from magnesium. Calcium has a contractive ability, so it may be stimulating, whereas magnesium relaxes. If you take the two at the same time, you might find that the magnesium doesn't have as much beneficial effect on relaxation and sleep. But that also may be the opposite, could be true for some individuals. So the important thing is to experiment if you are using calcium. If you're using it now, calcium, magnesium together before bed, and you're not sleeping, then separate them out. Get 2 products, like our calcium hydroxyapatite, for instance, and then our magnesium taken at separate times may really make a difference. All right, that's the only one I can think of. But there's no harm done taking other supplements with magnesium that I can think of. Why is magnesium oxide included in our magnesium? Great question, Annette. Thank you. We're quite proud and very open about this. We're not trying to hide the fact that we use some magnesium oxide in our formulation. And the reason is in order to get 165 milligrams of elemental magnesium, then we would need, if we used only magnesium glycinate, we need a much bigger capsule. And no one would want to swallow that. So on the other hand, if we only used magnesium glycinate, this is a very bulky compound, And we could barely stuff 100 milligrams into one capsule if it was just reacted magnesium glycinate, no oxide, okay? So by putting some magnesium oxide in, I think it's 30% of the formulation is magnesium oxide and L-glycine dry chelate blend. Full disclosure, we're happy to share that information. Then we can get a higher elemental and therapeutic value with 165 milligrams. Now, why don't we have 200 milligrams? because it might fit. But honestly, in order to get 200 milligrams of total magnesium, we'd have to put even more oxide, more magnesium oxide. And in doing so, you lose that bowel tolerance because magnesium oxide is not as well absorbed as magnesium glycinate. So we don't want to create any more problems with the bowel. We don't want to, we want people to be able to take our product and get benefit without side effects. And so we've found this happy balance, 70-30, 70% magnesium from magnesium glycinate, 30% from the magnesium oxide and L-glycine dry chelate blend. So that's our formula, full transparency, not required, by the way, by Health Canada. They do not ask us to say this. You look at some other brands and they don't clarify this. They just call their product magnesium glycinate. And then you see it has 200 milligrams or less in each capsule, and you're left thinking that that is purely magnesium glycinate, and that is not true. But there's no law that says they can't do that, all right? Alrighty. So how much L-theanine can you take safely in one day, Amanda asks. Well, this is one of the few nutrients or supplements, natural health products, that has a very wide therapeutic window, which means the doses, there's no limit really on how much you can take. There's no toxicity that is apparent. And how would we know? Well, toxicity is apparent when side effects occur, undesirable physiological effects, right? And that simply does not seem to happen with l-theanine. And that's why we love it. That's why we chose it over 5-HTP, GABA. These are, neurotransmitters or precursors to neurotransmitters that actually can have a lot of contraindications. You can't take herbs, you can't take a lot of things, other medications with those. You run the risk of serious problems like serotonin syndrome, which can be deadly. So that's why we chose l-theanine. So my suggestion to my clients in practice is you can increase the dose, taking it more often. So taking it earlier in the day, taking it again midway through the day, and then again at bedtime. And you see if that is enough. And again, to each their own, in that if you're working with a health practitioner, then they may suggest that you keep increasing the dose until you get benefit. But having said that, that's not really my style to go just higher and higher. But I've met consumers who say they take 5 a day. All right, 5 L-theanine a day. They say, "Oh, I love your product. It's great." And I say, "How many do you take to get the desired effect?" And they tell me 5 capsules. And my first thought as a nutritionist is, if they need 5 capsules of L-theanine to feel calm and relaxed enough to sleep, what is going on in their lives? What are the nutritional factors that could be out of balance, requiring them to take so many L-theanine? So my suggestion to anyone who finds themselves needing more than 3 or 4 capsules a day of L-theanine is make sure your nutrients are balanced. If you're not taking magnesium, adding the magnesium, you may not need so much L-theanine, all right? So that's just an example. So it's very safe, very well tolerated. I'm not concerned about you taking too much. You take as much, again, as you need to feel good, considering and keeping in mind, checking off those boxes that your nutrition is adequate, okay? Yeah, so you can take it during the day as well as before bed, absolutely, because it's non-sedating. That's what we love about, another thing we love about L-theanine is you can take it during the day. You can drive, you can operate machinery, you can operate in the operating room, you can do whatever you need to do, and it will not interfere with your cognitive function, your reaction time. No, it's very, very useful that way and very safe. So feel free to use it at any time. All right, so Dorothy says she tried L-theanine and it helped reduce the number of times she got up through the night. Awesome. From 3 to 2 and sometimes just once. Awesome. Old habits are hard to break and I don't know what else I should do to try and break the habit of getting up every night. I started taking 1 capsule of the magnesium glycinate and we will see if that helps. Great idea. Very good. Dorothy, I support that. And keep in mind, I mean, some people are waking up because they have to go to the bathroom. That's a good thing, right? If that's not the reason you're getting up or waking up, again, I think what matters more than waking up at night is are you staying awake for a long period of time? And if that's the case and your thoughts are spinning and you're starting to worry about stuff and overthink things, there's a good sign that you need some more L-theanine. But if that's not the case, if it's just you're waking up noticing it's 3 a.m. And you're not awake that long, 5 minutes, 10 minutes even, it shouldn't be a big concern. Okay, so there's a lot of cognitive therapies, cognitive behavioral therapies, mindfulness-based stress reduction I talked about earlier briefly. I mentioned that there's a lot of resources on that involve a variety of techniques so that you can, when that happens to you and you wake up at 3 and instead of saying to yourself, oh no, now I'm going to be awake for the next 3 hours and oh my gosh, I have to get up at 6:30 and what am I going to do? And you start spinning yourself into this rabbit hole of worry. Instead, the cognitive behavioral therapy helps you change the way you react to that information, right? You might notice the clock, say, oh, it's 3 a.m. Okay. And no judgment, no anything. So there are different therapies that can help you change the way you react to that information so that it doesn't stress you out and lead to more problems. All right. Is taking ashwagandha also good for falling and staying asleep? We don't recommend taking it past 3 p.m. I know it's known as an adaptogen, which for those who've never heard that term, an adaptogen is a non-nutrient, a non-essential substance, usually a herb that has a balancing effect on the system and helps us adapt to and adjust to stress so that it doesn't wear us down so easily, so that we don't react so strongly to a stressor. So it tends to have a balancing effect, yet some people tell us, and it's in the literature, that ashwagandha is stimulating for them, so that they may not sleep well when they use it. So we suggest using ashwagandha earlier in the day. Our product, Adaptapure, it's one of our newest products. It's a combination of ashwagandha, rhodiola, both standardized, okay, as well as some of our L-theanine, all in one to support stamina, focus, relaxation, all right, all of that seems to balance things out, the nervous system. But again, we don't recommend taking it after 3 p.m. All right. Can I continue to take my magnesium supplement even if I improve my nutrition levels of magnesium through nutrition? Well, yes, because I'll say I'm a little skeptical that anyone can get their daily required amount of magnesium through food alone these days because of the way food is grown and processed. Soils have become deficient and depleted because of intensive farming techniques. And so it means that the nutrients, the magnesium and zinc and other minerals don't get into the plants and they don't get therefore into our bodies because we're not consuming them, consuming high amounts through those plants. Same that the animals that consume the food grown on those soils, they may be having subpar mineral and nutrient content as well. All right, and so then there's food processing, which removes a lot of minerals, strips minerals, right? Brown rice, you lose a lot of nutrition just by taking the bran off the rice. When you make white rice, you're left with starch and not much else. All right. So that's the reason I'm a little skeptical that anyone can get enough magnesium from food. What are the top dietary sources? Seeds and nuts and dark greens, dark leafy greens. But again, we're not talking about like 200 milligrams per serving, right? We're talking about, if you're lucky, 25, 35 milligrams per serving. Nuts, I think if you were a squirrel, you'd be getting a decent amount of magnesium. But unfortunately, it's tough to do. And what are the recommended daily intakes? Well, they range between 350 and 450 milligrams of magnesium per day for women and men, respectively, I believe. And that's just the minimum amount to prevent deficiency symptoms from occurring. So if you're getting less, just slightly less than that, you may not feel your best. It can affect your energy, for example. And so optimal daily requirements, we're big believers in optimization of nutrition and health. And in order to find out your ideal dosage, you can use something that we call our magnesium protocol. And you could always email me to get that, and you can use that to find out what your optimal dosing is. All right. And a hint, it involves how much your bowel will tolerate. Okay. Can I take l-theanine and magnesium supplements together at the same time? Absolutely, you can. So I read that kind of fast. L-theanine and magnesium are great partners. Take them at the same time. No reason not to. You're welcome, Dorothy. Okay, Anonymous says, I noticed that the chewable L-theanine is lower dosage than the lower dosage than the capsule. I love the idea of a chewable. So do I take more than one a day? I'm not sure I understand that question. Let me look at that a little more here. Okay, so the lower, yes, the chewable L-theanine is our lowest dose of the 3 formats and offerings. It's 125 milligrams of L-theanine in each chewable tablet. And then we have, remember, our regular L-theanine is 250 milligrams per capsule. You swallow that one whole. And then the slow release is 200 milligrams per capsule. So you will probably find, if you decide to use the chewable, which has a more rapid absorption and therefore a faster effect, you would need to take 2 to give you the equivalent of 1 of our regular L-theanine, right? 250 milligrams, yes. Great, well, these are great questions. Keep them coming. I'm happy to continue if there are any more. By the way, if any of you are wondering what do I do to help me sleep, or what's a deal breaker, okay? Meaning if there's something that I do not do every day, it will affect my ability to fall asleep or stay asleep. Would you like to know what those are? I'm going to tell you anyway while we're waiting for more questions. One of them is I have to eat breakfast. If I skip breakfast, I just cannot keep, first of all, I can't function as well. I don't have the energy in the morning or the mental focus. But also, if I skip breakfast and say, oh, I'm going to wait till lunchtime and just try and eat more, that doesn't work for me. For some reason, I never catch up on the amount of calories that I need. And I'm one of those people that will get that nocturnal hypoglycemia if I do not eat enough during the day. So that means I'll wake up in the middle of the night, wide awake, and think and look around and feel very alert and can't fall back to sleep. And if I lie there a little longer, I realize my stomach is empty and I have to go down and make something, a nice quick snack, combination of carbohydrates, proteins, fats, nut butter on some crackers, some fruit and some nut butter, something like that. And within about 40 minutes, I will be sleepy and I can go back to bed and back to sleep. So that's what I do if I find myself in that situation for some reason if I didn't eat enough during the day. But that's a deal breaker, is if I have to, somehow miss breakfast. There's flights, airplane, air travel, that can really change things for me and make it difficult to get enough calories. So that's one of the deal breakers. Let's see. Any other questions come in? Right. I've mentioned zinc. Is this something that should be incorporated into a daily routine? I believe this is one of the other most suboptimal nutrients, meaning people aren't getting adequate levels during the day in their diet for the same reasons, the food processing and the soil depletion, and food choices too. Zinc, foods highest in zinc include the shellfish like clams, oysters, mussels, number one, i.e. highest source. But then there are the vegetarian sources, again, nuts and seeds, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds in particular are the superstars with zinc. Again, all assuming that the soils contain the zinc. So I feel it's a good idea just to make sure, covering your bases, that you take a zinc supplement daily. So Pure Lab has a 23 milligram zinc glycinate product. So 23 milligrams of zinc per capsule. It can be taken with a meal. We always recommend taking zinc with food. It is one that it runs a higher risk of stomach discomfort if you take it by itself. Although having the glycine attached to the zinc makes it seems to reduce the chance of gastrointestinal upset. Okay, so important for the immune system, important for reproductive system, whether you want to reproduce or not. That's another webinar coming later this spring. It's something that's important for sexual function, mental health, and so much more. Skin, wound healing, infection prevention, things like that. So yes, I feel it's a good thing to take daily. 1 capsule should be enough unless you have increased needs. Individuals with enlarged prostate gland that is non-cancerous and not due to any other problem like infection can be using zinc to help promote healthy hormone balance that may have a beneficial effect on the size of the prostate, i.e. a smaller prostate. Okay. All right. Any other questions here? Is there any concern about copper when taking zinc? Well, it depends. First of all, you'll notice that Pure Lab does not put zinc and copper in the same product, and that was intentional. We like to keep things separate so that people can personalize their supplemental regime. Not everybody needs more copper, right? So say you're a female, and there aren't too many women I meet with this scenario, but if they have a copper IUD, intrauterine device, as a contraceptive device, then that thing is secreting copper into their body for as long as they have it. So those individuals, I would not recommend additional copper. On the other hand, let's see, what other situations? If you love chocolate, you may not need more copper in your life because cocoa actually is a great source of copper. All right, so think about your chocolate habits and whether you're a fan. You may not need copper, but there are individuals who need it to balance out a higher intake of zinc. So if a practitioner, naturopath, or nutritionist has suggested that you take 2 capsules of our zinc glycinate per day, 23 milligrams times 2, that brings you closer to 50 milligrams, and that, while that is perfectly safe, it can increase your requirements for more copper, right? Because the two need to be balanced, but when I say balanced, I don't mean equal, and I don't mean 2 to 1. I mean a ratio of about 30 to 1, probably. So for every 30 milligrams of zinc, you may need to take an extra milligram of copper, but it's all individual. If you're not sure how much if you're a good candidate to take copper, certainly check with your health practitioner or nutritionist. Okay. All right. Thank you, Angela. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Super. There will be more of these coming this year, yes. Okay, due to perimenopause, hot flashes have been happening quite frequently to you, I imagine. Any recommendations? That's a big topic, and with regards to what does Pure Lab have to offer to support menopause? Well, because this is about a time of hormone fluctuations, it's not yet hormone depletion necessarily. It can be unsteady levels, surges in estrogen and then nothing, surges of progesterone and then nothing, potentially. And so each woman is experiencing things differently. The most important things, again, are nutritional balance. You want to provide the stress support above all. So that would be your B complex, such as our bioactive B formulation, which is a slow release so that you only need to take 1 or 2 capsules per day, plus our magnesium, since irritability can result and hot flashes, especially if they happen at night, can disrupt sleep. So you want to use our sleep protocol that I've presented tonight. But the reason for the stress support, again, we're just talking supplements here, is because there tends to be this phenomenon of women who have the worst symptoms of menopause or perimenopause are those who are burning the candle at both ends, meaning they work hard, play hard, live hard, and out of necessity or whatever, or love of work, but their adrenal glands have taken a bit of a beating and they're not getting the support they need at this point in their lives. So it's important to be using those foundational supplements to support the adrenal glands, keep cortisol from becoming too high as well, and also looking at the diet. In brief, the biggies that will influence hot flashes will be anything that has histamine in it, like your red wine is the top contributor of histamine. Histamine is a vasodilator. It opens up the blood vessels, which sounds like a great thing, bringing more blood and oxygen, nutrients to your cells, but actually can make you feel very uncomfortable during these hot flashes. So keeping histamine levels low, avoiding the red wine. And then all those tyramine containing foods, a lot of those are histamine producing too. The ones I mentioned earlier, like the fermented aged foods, okay? So coffee, alcohol, those are things, again, the non-nutritionals, I call them, that are the first things that may have a negative influences, and looking at your sugar intake. And of course, as a nutritionist, I always like to recommend and remind people, don't just take things out of your diet. Replace them with quality replacements, right? There may not be a wine substitute, but we're talking about bringing something new in whenever you reduce or remove something. So that way, you're not always just subtracting, you're replacing, and it'll make it an easier transition too. Great. Okay, thank you, Julie. Glad you're a fan of the products. Yes, that's the other thing. So the adrenal glands are like backup for the ovaries. Great reminder. Yeah, that was something I meant to say, actually, so thanks. And yes, because they too can make a little bit of estrogen and progesterone. That's probably why when the adrenal glands are strained from excess stress, they're not able to make the progesterone and estrogen if they're under functioning. So that's why these women have a worse time of perimenopause. So support those adrenal glands. You can use our Adaptapure as well, along with the B complex. Vitamin C is important for the adrenal glands, and so is the magnesium. Yes, great. And yes, you're welcome, Annette. All right, what is my other, while we're waiting for any other questions to come in, my other deal breaker or non-negotiable? What do I do every day to help make sure that I can fall asleep quickly and stay asleep, have a good night's sleep? It's getting outside, no matter what the weather, unless I am like really flat out with some kind of illness, right? I am getting outside even for a few minutes per day. Whether it's snowing, raining, sunny, cloudy, whatever. I get the proper clothes on and footwear, and I get out there. Now, usually I go for a walk in this case. And what that does, you're getting fresh air, right, which is important. And secondly, you're getting natural light. So too many of us are spending our winters almost 100% indoors, right? We go into the garage, you get in the car, and run from the car to the store, and because we're not wearing a lot of warm clothing. And unfortunately, that's not enough time to be exposed to natural light to tell your pineal gland to make melatonin. When the time comes later in the day and it notices the difference between, the brain notices the difference between the bright light of the daytime and now the low light levels as the sun goes down, then that's a really critical change to happen. And if you don't see that difference, the brain doesn't see it, then it thinks you're basically in a casino all day. So we all have seen or heard about casinos and how they are designed to basically appear and recreate an experience of timelessness, right? There's no day, there's no night, no matter what time of day, it looks and feels the same. And that's actually really disturbing to the circadian rhythm, and you will not secrete melatonin in that situation. All right. So yes, the difference between light and dark, dim conditions and bright conditions, you can still wear sunglasses. That's okay, right? UV protection is important, but if it's sunny out, your body, your skin will actually even notice or react to the UV, and your body will know the difference enough. So I find that really beneficial. If I don't get out for some reason, I do not sleep well. That's me. All right. Can I explain a little bit about our Adaptive Pure product and its benefits for perimenopause, please? Sure. So it contains, again, standardized extracts of ashwagandha and rhodiola. It's the Sensorial brand ashwagandha. So this is one used in clinical studies, randomized controlled trials, etc. Very high quality. And the l-theanine. So those are the three ingredients. And they're there to work together to increase our resilience against stress. So it means that the adrenal glands don't have to react by secreting adrenaline and cortisol so much, okay? And so that way, that's what really tires us out. You may not realize or realized it before, that this reaction to stress is taking a lot out of your system, and it's really draining the adrenal glands, and because they're constantly having to secrete these hormones just to keep you upright and alive and thinking and reacting to daily stressors, making decisions and all of that. So by using a formula that buffers your reaction or your response to stress and helping you, it helps basically reduce that reactivity, and so you're prolonging your ability to stay in a energetic or calm energy state. You know what I mean? When I say energetic, I don't mean bouncing off the walls. I mean you can get everything done. You're productive. You're thinking clearly. You're not foggy-headed. These are some of the observations. And these herbs have helped with athletic performance for the same reason in clinical trials. They've noticed that the athletes who use ashwagandha and rhodiola, I mean, these are the same herbs that were used by people at, say, high altitudes. When it comes to rhodiola, it's also known as Arctic root, and it's something that people who lived in mountainous areas would use to improve their stamina, their physical stamina, okay? So no wonder it's helping athletes, but it can help anyone, and they've studied it on regular people, right, like us too, finding the same thing. Improved resilience and stamina to everyday stressors, whether they're physical, mental, emotional, or whatever, okay? So that is a huge piece in the whole perimenopause situation. One capsule twice a day, again, never after 3 p.m. That's assuming that you have a kind of a regular diurnal kind of rhythm of sleeping at night and waking up and operating during the day, okay? If you're a night shift worker, then that's going to change things, but you have to think in sort of the reverse effect, reverse thing. So if you're a night shifter, then you should, I suggest that you don't take Adaptive Pure or ashwagandha or rhodiola 6 hours before you plan to go to bed, okay? All right. Well, how are we doing for time here? 7:41. All right. Let's see, are there any other questions that have come up? Anything else that you want to double check about what I said earlier? Nutrition, lifestyle, the sleep cycle. All right, nothing else coming in at this point. All right, so just a reminder, once again, you will get the replay of this in your email box because you're here now. So you can review it at your leisure, and it will always be there on the website as well. And so you can actually go back to the website under webinars tab. You will see all the previous webinars that we have done over the last couple of years, I think. The ones with Cyrus, the ones with me and Cyrus, and then me as well. So you're welcome to do that. All right, well, so we're getting lots of good feedback. I hope the rest of you are just letting this soak in and percolate, and I welcome you to send me any questions related to the material today, or the products, of course, at andrea@purelabvitamins.com. Okay, so thanks so much for coming out and joining me tonight and learning more about sleep and what you can do to improve your sleep. And I hope you have a great night. I'll see you next time. Good night.